Guys, welcome to the homestead. So I don't know if you saw the witch hazel video or not, but today we're going to kind of expand on that, and we're going to make what you would call like a rose hydrosol. There's a lot of back and forth about the difference between rose water versus hydrosol versus all of this, but literally rose water usually ends up getting infused back in with a rose essential oil. Some of them, not all of them. A rose hydrosol is usually the byproduct of making an essential oil. Well, as you can see, I don't have a still set up, so I'm not making essential oils. But you can still do the distillation process and make a hydrosol yourself to use for a couple of these different reasons, right? So if you're using rose, it's really good for your skin. It can help with a lot of different issues there. But also a lot of my friends who, of course, don't want fragrances in their home, that can't tolerate the essential oils sometimes because they can be too heavy for them as well, depending on the essential oil. Well, we can now make this hydrosol, and we can diffuse that in our house as well and use that to kind of set our house on top of all the other products. Now, this one will not be shelf stable, which means once you're done making it, you will need to put it in your refrigerator, and it can stay there for up to 6 months, of course, watching it. If you're going to use it, I would recommend pouring a little into a different vessel and then dipping out of that to rub it on your face, wherever your trouble spot happens to be, or pouring directly into your diffuser. So that way you're not sticking your fingers in it and possibly putting any bacteria or anything in it that could cause something wonky to grow. Now, you can use fresh rose petals for this, but you want to make sure your rose petals are organic, they don't have any pesticides on them, nothing like that, right? Because you don't want it. Of course, this time of year, any roses you get from the store, no guarantee they're organic, so best to use your own. I have some dried rose petals that I've had for quite some time, so we're going to use those today for our process, and I have rehydrated them. As you can see, they're kind of droopy wet. I have rehydrated them so that way when I put them in my vessel and pour my water over, it doesn't just suck it all up. Right, so these have been sitting for about 2 hours, and you know that they're done when they're wet and there's still water left at the bottom of the bowl. It means it has absorbed as much as it possibly can. Now, this process is going to be a lot faster than the witch hazel was because we don't have to make that tincture and then add alcohol or any of that. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my reconstituted roses. And I don't drain them because I use distilled water for this process to rehydrate them. So you're just going to dump them in your pot. And then just like with the witch hazel, we're just going to pour enough water to cover, right? We're not trying to drown the rose petals. This again is why you want to rehydrate them before you do this process. So that way you know you're getting a good cover. And again, the measure is still 2 quarts to 2 quarts is usually a good measuring place to say, yep, I have enough reconstituted and I have enough coverage. So we're going to put that in. And then I'm just going to, again, put this on low because we're just trying to replicate like we did a simmer. And I'll show you what it looks like in the pot as my cat goes flying across the kitchen. So like I said, I've got my heat on. I've already got myself prepped out. I've got my lid. Make sure everything is completely clean. I have this propped up so that way it's not touching anything. And then I have my bowl for my catchment. And it really just depends on your process, or, it really just depends how much we're going to get out of this. It's hit or miss depending on your rose petals. I find that my dry petals reconstitute with a stronger scent than if I was going to use fresh rose petals. But again, it's entirely up to you, and it's a nice way to kind of use those rose petals if you get a lot of roses off your bushes, or if you get a lot of roses. So I'm just going to let this come to a simmer. I'm using room temperature water, so it shouldn't take too long. Once this starts to simmer, I'll come back and I'll show you the next step in the process. Okay guys, so this has gotten to a point where it's heating up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our, trying to do this one-handed, so bear with me, but we're going to take our divider and put in, and then we're going to put our catchment bowl in just like last time. See, the water is starting to come up. Again, you don't want to bury your product or your bowl or have anything go sideways on you. You want to make sure everything's clean. If at this point you realize that, when you push it down in there that you don't have a lot of liquid coming up, you can add some more liquid to it as well. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your top. You see how this is all starting to look familiar? But the difference with this one is you're going to take an ice pack and put on top. And this is actually going to speed up your process. So as the steam comes up, it's going to hit the cold on the top of your lid, and it's going to drop faster. Again, we're not trying to make what we were making with the witch hazel. This is a different process for a water-based hydrosol. So we're just going to sit here and we're going to let this boil. And I would say a low boil when it gets to that point. I'll show you. But I always like to put my stuff in when it gets to that warm place before it starts to boil. That way if I accidentally touch it, I don't burn myself. But I'll move it to the side so when I come back, you guys can see kind of what's going on. It might be hard to see through the entire process on this one because this is here, but I will be able to move this and kind of show you more. So we'll get this going and then we'll come back. Okay guys, so it's been about 35 minutes. I've let this continue on a slow boil. I did rotate my ice pack once or twice through the process and just keep washing, wiping the water off of it to keep kind of the mess down. I also don't want a big pond of water to accumulate and anything go down the vent into our process. So now, like I said, this has been going on a nice rolling boil for 35 minutes. So we're just going to turn our heat off completely. Just like we did with the witch hazel, we're going to remove it from the heat and we're going to let the pot cool to cold touch. It will continue to collect the hydrosol in our concave lid like we did with the witch hazel. When that is done, I will come back and we'll see what our finished product is, and then we'll even put it into our diffuser to see, what our ultimate final scent level is at. But I can already tell you, I can smell it coming out of the pot and it's pretty nice. So it's kind of cool how you can take this, you can dry it, and you can turn it into something else and continue to use these products to help you. So I'm going to let this cool, go run my errands, and when it's done, we'll be back. Okay guys, so this has completely cooled again, right? Very cold to the touch. Just like with the witch hazel, we're just going to rotate it so that all our lovely liquid falls into our catchment container. And then what we're going to do, you'll notice inside the pot, right? I still have a lot of liquid in this one because I didn't let it go as long because I didn't have as much time. But you can actually boil this down till your liquid's almost gone and then remove it from the heat. But you just want to make sure that you're watching it through this process so you don't burn your leaves, right? Because if you burn your leaves, then you're going to have a horrendous scent. But what we have done here is we have captured, and I don't have a lot of water left in there. I probably could have gone another 10 minutes. But usually it's around 35 to 40 minutes that you'll do this process. And then just watching it. Seeing how your liquid is evaporating, seeing how much you're collecting. It's kind of one of those processes, you do it a couple times and you'll get used to it. Taking care, right, to wipe everything off of the container. And I probably need a smaller jar to put in, but this is the only amber color jar I have available at the moment. But you'll want to take this and pour it into your amber jar, and then you'll cap it. That smells really good. And then you'll put a cap on it and stick it in your fridge. And it'll last in your fridge for 3 to 6 months, depending on how you're using it. Now then from there, you can take it and you can put it straight into your diffuser if you wanted to. So let's say you just wanted to make some to diffuse. Now as you're doing this process, your house is already going to smell like rose. But these rose hydrosols are phenomenal for your skin and other issues. But if you wanted to, you could just pour it straight into your diffuser. I don't want to use it all. And then you'll just cap it off. Put your top on your diffuser. I'm going to just give it a minute to start. And there you go. Easy. I think you can see the smoke. Yeah, there you go. And, yep, smells just like roses. So it's a nice way to kind of get that scent in your house with maybe definitely not the heaviness of fragrances. Maybe if essential oils are bothering you, or if you have pets, right, that are sensitive to some, then this is another way to kind of bring scents into your house. Also using it for your face and dry spots on your skin, which is nice. You can use this process even for dried lavender, dried chamomile, like all of that. Just make sure that you reconstitute it and let it soak up some of the water before you start this process, so that way you're not having to constantly take your top off and add water back through the process. When spring rolls around and you've got fresh flowers, then you can use those as well too to make this as well. But here's the thing, remember with fresh, it's going to take more, right? Because it's going to break down more into your process. But I enjoy this. I think it's kind of fun to play around and see what I can use, what mixes well. You can take this rose and mix it with your witch hazel to make a rose and witch hazel wash to put on your face, right? Then you get an astringent and something that might help with skin issues as well. And just keep kind of playing around with it until you find your different scents and stuff you like. If you made the soap paste from one of our original, one of my first videos, well, when you go to dilute your soap paste, if you have these hydrosols, dilute it with a hydrosol instead of water. You will find that these hydrosols are phenomenal for your skin, and they're not as rough and as dry on them. If I could afford it, I would probably do everything with the hydrosols instead of just water, because there really is just this phenomenal scent to it. Like, you don't even have to, like, you make the soap paste and you break it down with a hydrosol instead of doing just straight water. Well, you don't have to add essential oils. Your soap is already going to be scented because of the natural plants that you've broken down here. Not something that I can do on a commercial scale, of course, right? Just being my little small self doing my business. But this is why I'm trying to teach you these things, right? If you make bars of soap, then use the cold process, right? And do these hydrosols. But just kind of watch it because the temperature with the lye can get so extreme that you kind of burn off the benefits of these. So this is why I prefer it like with my soap paste. So then I'll just kind of reconstitute it. I'll just put my soap paste in, weigh out my hydrosol, put it on top of it, and make small batches to wash my hands with and stuff. If you already have like a Castile soap, such a plain Castile soap, and you want to add scent to it, right? You can put this in there, but just kind of make sure that you don't add too much water that your soap just becomes kind of worthless. Hydrosols too are very good for rinses on your hair. You can mix them with vinegars too. So, there's a lot of things you can do. I want to eventually get my still out and show you how to make like the essential oils and then the byproduct and stuff, but that's going to be a spring project, of course, because I just don't really have any fresh herbs that are worth the essential oils at this time. I don't have them in bulk to even be able to do this. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching this process. Again, just something fun you can do. You don't have to make this big a batch either. You can do it in a smaller pot. This is just the only one that I have it where I have the mechanics big enough to fit, everything in and stack it the way it needs to be. But I appreciate you guys stopping by and watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If nothing else, just got a kick out of me moving around the kitchen, finding a fun way, just bringing scents in our home. And as I said, thank you again and have a nice day.